If you have allies and they are working with you and fighting with you, and 24 hours somebody wakes up and says, "No, we're out." Right. Is that the right way to do that?
The studio was a pressure cooker, and the lid was about to blow off. Before Whoopi even said a word, the tension was unbearable. Rand Paul had barely sat down, and already the air was thick with hostility, like he'd walked into enemy territory with cameras rolling. From the moment the red light blinked on, it was clear this wasn't a talk show. It was a political ambush. The View's hosts looked less like interviewers and more like assassins, each one ready to sink their teeth into Rand Paul over war, taxes, and the virtues of socialism. But Rand? He didn't come to be steamrolled. He came armed with facts and nerves of steel. While Whoopi threw out questions loaded with accusation and disdain, Rand didn't blink. He dismantled her attacks with a surgeon's precision. Actually, Turkey doesn't want Iran to take over anything, he said coolly. Israel doesn't want Iran to take over anything, and Israel actually stands up for themselves all the time. That line landed like a grenade. Some in the audience clapped, others gasped in disbelief. Then Sonny Hostin jumped in, practically shouting, "We have massive taxes here, but we don't get any free stuff," she barked. "Our public education system is broken." She thought she had him cornered, but Rand hit back hard, laying the blame for Venezuela's disaster squarely at socialism's feet. The room was stunned, but he didn't stop there.
Well, if you vote for a socialist, you might get socialism.
Come on, don't do that. Maduro is not a socialist. He's a corrupt, murderous thug who is starving his people.
That's not true.
That's not true? Maduro's not a thug and a murderer who's starving his people.
Let's have a conversation here. Chavez was a socialist, and socialism was the economic system of Venezuela.
And they stole. It's a kleptocracy. It's not socialism.
But here's the question is, they voted for socialism. They voted, let me finish.
No, I can't let you finish. If you're going to say Maduro's not a murderous thug, I'm not letting you finish.
As Rand ripped through the failures of socialism, the entire room froze, like the truth had sucked the oxygen out of the air. You could hear people shifting in their seats, their eyes wide, their mouths shut. Bernie Sanders' version of socialism wouldn't even work in Denmark, Rand declared with force. Even their prime minister said, "We're not socialists," and just like that, the illusion shattered, right there on live TV. Then came the knockout. They tax the working class 60%, Rand fired off, and they slap a 25% sales tax on everyone, rich or poor. The facts hit like uppercuts. Whoopi's face twitched, her jaw tightening like a vice ready to snap, and then, boom! He dropped a line so explosive it shook the studio. "If you vote for socialism, you'll get socialism," he roared. The crowd erupted. Here's an applause, shook the walls, sending shockwaves through the set. Whoopi's glare turned lethal. The clapping drove Whoopi into a tailspin. Her eyes darted toward the audience with rage sharp enough to cut steel. Before she could speak, Ana Navarro jumped in, panicked. "You talk a lot about Venezuela in your book," she said, trying to calm the storm. "But do you really think Democrats will turn the US into Venezuela?" Rand didn't flinch. "Well, if you vote for a socialist, you might get socialism," he repeated, delivering it slow, deliberate, and deadly. The gasps that followed were deafening. "No, no, Maduro is not a socialist," Whoopi barked. Her voice was trembling with anger. "He's a corrupt, murderous thug." Rand leaned in, cool as ice. "That's true," he began, but she exploded before he could finish. "That's not true!" Whoopi shrieked. "Don't do this to me!" Her voice shook the walls, full of rage, panic, and desperation. "You're just saying this to score points!" she shouted. But Rand stood his ground. "I have neighbors and friends from Venezuela," he said firmly. "They lived it. They saw it with their own eyes." Whoopi's face went crimson, and then, without warning, she threw her hands in the air and screamed, "We'll be right back!" The screen faded to black mid-sentence. The audience didn't move, they just sat there, stunned, silent, stunned again. But the storm wasn't over. When the cameras came back, Rand brought up Syria, and the second explosion rocked the set. As he calmly explained why American troops should come home, Whoopi lunged in again, this time with fire in her throat. "Have a look."
Damn lie. Wait, and I've got a bunch of neighbors and friends who know this. Don't do this to me. Don't mansplain. I'm a 47-year-old girl.
Thanks to Senator Rand Paul. His new book is called The Case Against Socialism, and we'll
I live in Miami. There's tens of thousands of Venezuelan exiles living there. You talk a lot about Venezuela in your new book. I get a lot of a lot of political ads from the Republican Party. Donald Trump has tweeted this. Many have tweeted this. If you vote for Democrats, they will turn the United States into Venezuela. Do you think that's a fair statement to make?
But is that the right way to do it? Whoopi snapped, her voice slicing through the air. But Rand didn't blink, not even once. Should we stay in endless wars, he shot back? Should we keep throwing American sons and daughters into danger with no goal, no plan? His words struck like thunder, one after another. No, Whoopi, that's not leadership, that's madness, he declared, voice rising like a tidal wave. Then he dropped the bomb. The Iraq war was a failure. Both Trump and Obama admitted it. His tone was surgical, calm, but devastating. These regime change wars, they leave nothing but rubble. Joy's face froze, wide-eyed and speechless. Sonny glared, arms crossed, teeth clenched. But Whoopi, she was boiling, rage trembling just beneath the surface. You can't just abandon everything, she barked, practically shaking. What about our allies? Rand turned to her slowly, eyes locked. Our allies? He echoed coldly. Turkey? They're feeding the chaos. He didn't sugarcoat it. Let's stop pretending they're some kind of heroes. And just like that, snap! Whoopi cut him off again. Let's go to break, she shouted. Her voice cracked with fury, her face flushed and tight. The tension exploded into silence. The audience froze, stunned. The camera jerked. The crew scrambled. Chaos buzzed behind the scenes. But Rand, he didn't even shift in his chair. He sat still, calm, untouchable. He had just torn through their arguments and the panel had nothing left to throw. But Sonny wasn't done. She lunged for a new angle. You support tax cuts that only help the rich, she accused with venom. But Rand's response slammed down like a sledgehammer. The top 1% pay 40% of all income taxes in this country, he fired back. No hesitation, just raw facts. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% pay nothing, he added, and the room gasped again. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Sonny stammered, caught off guard. That's not true, she yelled. Donald Trump doesn't even pay income tax. But Rand didn't miss a beat. Not for a second. Those making under $50,000, 0 cents don't pay income tax, he stated with force. That's not an opinion, it's fact. He wasn't shaken. He was on the attack and they couldn't stop him. I will be right back.
If you have allies and they are working with you and fighting with you, and 24 hours somebody wakes up and says, "No, we're out." Right. Is that the right way to do this?
I think the way we look at wars, we don't look at
No. Is that the right way to do it?
Let me answer the question.
Okay.
When we decide whether or not we're sending our young people into harm's way, we should obey the Constitution, which says we should declare war and put them in a war theater. But let me finish.
Okay.
And here's the thing about it, is if you ask these people, Lindsey Graham and the Cheney war and all these warmongers that want to stay at war forever, who are we going to declare war on? They don't know who. We're going to declare war on Turkey, our ally,
Should we
the
ever
Free Syrian
walk
Army,
out
our ally?
in the middle? It's like walking out.
We should never be there in the first place.
That's not the question, though. No, that's all good.
But see, the left agreed with me for so many years. For so many years, the left agreed with me.
I am neither left nor right. I'm just American. I want to know, should we be taking, should we be walking out on people?
Whoopi leaned forward like a storm ready to burst, arms crossed, eyes blazing. She was done playing polite. But Rand Paul? He didn't flinch, not an inch. We've got a progressive tax system, he declared boldly. We've taken the poor off the income tax rolls entirely, and yet people still scream about fairness like it's some kind of joke. The heat in the room was rising fast, boiling over with frustration. Sonny's voice cracked with emotion. But we don't have free health care, she shouted. Our public schools are a mess. Rand didn't miss a beat. Free? Nothing is free, he shot back. In Denmark, everyone pays for that so-called free stuff. His tone sharpened with every word. The working class pays a 25% sales tax and gets slammed with 60% income taxes, he fired off. That's the price tag for free. Is that what you want? He paused just long enough to let the truth sink in. Then silence swept the room. Some audience members nodded. Others whispered nervously. Whoopi stared at him like she could burn holes through his suit. Joy looked shaken, fidgeting in her seat. The attack plan was collapsing, and they could feel it. But Rand? He leaned in harder, thriving under pressure, his tone sharpened like a sword. Let's stop pretending socialism is a magic cure, he said, his voice rising. It destroys economies and squeezes the life out of the middle class. And just when things were beginning to settle, snap, Whoopi fired off again. "I'm not left or right, I'm just American," she blurted, as if it could cover all her contradictions. For a second, everything stopped. Then Rand delivered the kill shot, slow, deliberate, and devastating. "What, Whoopi?" he said, locking eyes with her. "If you're truly American, then maybe it's time to start listening to ideas that don't fit your narrative. That's what real Americans do." Boom, the audience erupted. Thunderous applause shook the studio. Whoopi's mouth dropped slightly, her face frozen in shock. She hadn't seen it coming, and it rattled her to the core. She couldn't hide it. Her silence was louder than any outburst. Rand had struck deep, and the crowd knew it. Trying to recover, Whoopi mumbled something about never supporting regime change, but it was too late. The damage was already done.
We talked about his wanting to pull troops out of Syria, and everyone saying, if we do that, we're abandoning the Kurds. That's not a good idea. And a lot of folks are saying he crossed the line with a bad decision, but you don't say that. Why?
The Turks are also allies. The Free Syrian Army were our allies for 7 years. They're allied with the Turks. The Kurds have been our allies. The Kurds, in all likelihood, are now going to be allies of Assad to try to carve out a place in Syria for themselves. It's a really complicated question. I guess from my perspective, I say, any of these people out here, their kids have to go to war. War's not a chess game. People lose their limbs and people die, and I think it's the least we owe to kids that we're going to send into this war. Why are we going to war, and who are we fighting?
But isn't there...
So,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. So if you have allies and they are working with you and fighting with you, and 24 hours somebody wakes up and says, "No, we're out." Right. Is that the right way to do this?
But Rand wasn't letting anything slide. "Well then, we agree," he said with a cool smile, like a surgeon ready to make the next cut. "Taking out Hussein and Gaddafi didn't bring peace, it unleashed terrorism." His voice rang like a bell, calm yet devastating. "The second we step in and remove foreign leaders," he continued, "we don't bring freedom, we bring chaos." The words hit hard, slicing through the room. The audience shifted uncomfortably, murmurs rising like smoke. People weren't so sure anymore. That's when Joy Behar burst in, tone sharp, voice raised. "So now what?" she demanded. "We just leave? We walk away? We abandon people?" But Rand didn't flinch. "We never should have gone in to begin with," he roared. "You can't abandon what you never controlled." Scattered applause popped up again, louder this time. The momentum was shifting. Whoopi's eyes darted nervously off camera, clearly signaling panic to someone behind the scenes. She knew this moment was slipping away, and fast. Then it happened. The flashpoint. Whoopi's voice shot up, trembling with fury. "How do you explain the videos of people being slaughtered? That's what we left behind." Her voice cracked from the pressure. It was raw, emotional, and spiraling. Chaos exploded. Every host was suddenly talking over the other. Accusations, emotion, and noise flooded the studio. The audience didn't move. They were frozen, stunned, caught in the crossfire. Joy's face turned deep red, like steam could burst from her ears. Sunny sat speechless, completely sideswiped. And Whoopi? She was boiling to the edge. And then she snapped. "Let's go to break," she shouted, voice thundering like a cannon blast. The command was final. The producers jumped. The music crashed in, but it couldn't cover the crackling tension still burning on set. The screen went dark for viewers, but the damage was done. This wasn't just a fiery segment, it was a full-blown showdown. Rand Paul hadn't just answered their questions, he'd hijacked the entire show. And when the cameras came back on, the tension hadn't faded, it had deepened. Whoopi sat stiff as stone, arms locked tight, her jaw clenched like steel. But Rand? He shifted in his seat with ease, relaxed, composed, and still in charge. The hosts looked rattled, but he wasn't finished there. Look at this clip.
But here's the thing is, left and right have agreed in the past that regime change doesn't work. When we got rid of Hussein, we got chaos and more terrorism. When we got rid of Gaddafi, chaos and more terrorism.
But Senator, we're here now, though.
But
we're here.
Yeah. We're not really here. We got 50 people. We're not
here.
doing anything.
Yeah, but frankly,
50 people
hold
is very
on.
symbolic.
Hold on.
And that is why it kept Turkey from invading.
You tell their parents
Isn't that true?
You tell the parents of those 50 kids how great the symbolism was when a suicide bomber blows up all 50
but
kids.
Didn't it keep Turkey from invading?
No, I'm not.
Gave
you tell
Turkey
their parents.
the green light.
You tell their
Isn't
parents
that
why
true?
they're there.
But isn't that true?
You tell their parents why
Isn't
they're
it true that Turkey did not
how do you feel about
we have?
How do you feel
about the video that we're seeing of the Kurds getting slaughtered?
I find the position of pulling out of these wars. That's a popular one, and I am there. There's a difference in having a strategy and leaving.
Sunny Hostin, desperate to grab back control, lunged for a new angle. Anything to stop the bleeding. You support a president who lies and cheats, she snapped, her voice trembling with fire. But Rand, he didn't even flinch. This isn't about one man, he shot back with force. This is about policy and the truth you refuse to face. His words tore through the noise like a blade through fabric. You're defending a system that keeps repeating the same deadly mistakes, he raised his voice, not in anger, but with power. How many more endless wars? How many more broken promises? How many more young Americans sent to die for nothing? The crowd erupted again, this time louder, longer, unstoppable, and the harder the panel pushed, the more the crowd leaned in. Rand was winning. Each word landed like a hammer. Whoopi looked furious now, her jaw locked, eyes narrowed, frustration boiling to the surface. Then it happened, the moment that tore the set apart. As Rand calmly made his final point about foreign entanglements, Whoopi stood up. She slammed her hand on the table and roared, "Enough! We're done here!" The room gasped. Audibly, Joy's eyes shot open in shock. Sunny turned away, stunned. The audience froze, like time itself had stopped. Nobody could believe what had just happened. Whoopi stormed off the set, live, mid-show, leaving the crew scrambling to regain control. Cameras jerked, producers panicked, but Rand, he just sat there, still, composed, untouchable. No fist pumping, no gloating, just calm power. He had walked straight into hostile territory and made the lions retreat. The producers scrambled for safety, cutting instantly to an emergency commercial. But the damage? Irreversible. Within minutes, clips exploded across the internet. Millions watching the chaos unfold. Hashtags took over social media. Rand Paul didn't just debate The View, he took it over and left it in ruins. And when the show limped back on air, Whoopi was gone. Joy tried to force some fake laughs, but the tension was thick as concrete. The energy was shattered. Rand Paul had walked into their studio and walked out having flipped the whole narrative upside down.
I just want to ask you this because I'm a gun owner. You know, I don't mind that you know that I have a gun. You can come in my house and look for you. You can get all whatever you need. I don't understand why anyone objects to getting rid of automatic weapons. Automatic weapons, they're not for hunting. They do nothing. They're only there to kill. And you'll notice that a lot of the things that have happened with automatic weapons. When we see that, why don't we say, you know, who really needs to have one other than people who are at war?
Yeah, what is that?
Truly automatic weapons we don't have. You know, we banned truly automatic weapons, I think, in 1934.
Right, but we still got a lot of them, Rand. Come on,
well,
man.
what we have is not automatic weapons, though we have semi-automatic. So they fire in a fairly fast sequence, but you can't pull the trigger and they come like a machine gun. Those are no longer out.
Outside the studio walls, the explosion was instant and unstoppable. Social media erupted, tweets flew, videos surged across every platform. Political commentators scrambled, spinning wild takes. No one could deny what just happened live on national television. The headlines didn't hold back. They screamed what everyone saw with their own eyes. Rand Paul obliterated The View, live and unfiltered. Even some of Whoopi's die-hard defenders were speechless. One viral post read, "Rand Paul just exposed everything broken about The View." Another shouted, "This was the realest moment on TV in years." This had gone far beyond a debate. It had become a war over power, truth, and control, and one guest refused to fold under media heat. Rand Paul didn't just survive their ambush. He turned the table right in front of millions. He walked in like a lone wolf, and the entire pack retreated. When he exited that studio, reporters and cameras swarmed, not to shame him, but to capture the man who stood against the entire panel and came out on top. Inside, the hosts were left stunned, shaken, scattered, speechless. They stared at the ruins of a segment they thought they controlled. But Rand never screamed. He never stormed out. He never broke down. He won the fight with one thing: cold, unshakable truth. Now a single question haunts the air. Did Rand Paul cross a line? Or did he finally say what millions have been afraid to speak? One thing certain, this wasn't some daytime argument. This was a televised reckoning that will echo across the internet forever. If you believe Rand Paul revealed the truth, like this video and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this battle, it's just getting started.